For the AFL Hunter Central Coast, this is the Mark and the Mike podcast with Oliver Croft.
G'day and welcome to the Mark and the Mike. I'm Ollie Croft. Now, we've just witnessed an incredible Game 1 of State of Origin with the Rugby League world still buzzing after a thrilling opener. So, this week on the show, we're switching codes from AFL to NRL as we catch up with an up-and-coming sports commentator who's heavily involved in the Rugby League world, James Robertson. James has called some of the biggest moments in recent Junior Rugby League, including the 2025 Jersey Flegg Grand Final, New South Wales Cup, Massey Cup regular season and finals, the famous Lachlan Galvin Easter Monday clash, and Jarrod Hayne's return game, while also leading regular coverage of Penrith Junior Rugby League alongside a talented young commentary team.
Down the crease, goes for the big hit. He wants the glory. Abhishek, it's Dix, and it's victory for the Ray White Warriors. Hayne, oh, what a pass there from Hayne. Oh, he loves it, and he brings it back to Jordan Hill. But look at that, the response not only from the crowd, but from the Wentworthville Magpies players themselves. It is great to see.
James, it's great to see you, but it's even better to see you in person. You've made the drive up from Penrith this morning, which says a lot in itself. So thanks for being here. And it's all about unpacking the journey this morning of your extensive commentary career, judging by what you've sent me. So thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, this is usually a podcast interviewing AFL players, but you're a man of the rugby league world, which is great. So you're actually one of our first special guests on the podcast. We're going to jump into your journey of sports commentary in a moment, but when you sent me some of your highlights, I was caught out by the highlight that you actually played a role in commentating the Jersey Flegg Grand Final. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think that I was going to have that opportunity, and I mean, a bit of hard work throughout the season and trying to call as much as I could, really, I think really put me in the standpoint to be in that position, that there was a bit of unfortunate luck from others that sort of fell into my lap. But yeah, if I wasn't working hard throughout the whole year, I wouldn't have been in the position to sort of grab that opportunity.
Yeah, what an experience. So for those that don't know, the Jersey Flegg Cup is a competition run by New South Wales Rugby League, which is like a step-up league between junior and senior levels, and it prepares players for the challenges of professional rugby league. So this was just one game that you do, James, and obviously you get around the rugby league field a fair bit, noting some of your other achievements having been the New South Wales Cup, the Jersey Flegg Cup, the Massey Cup regular season and final series, and the Lachlan Galvin game on Easter Monday, plus many, many more. That takes a lot of hard work. So can you take us back to the very beginning of your commentary journey?
Yeah, well, it started actually similarly in a place like this. For those of you that don't know, I went to Charles Sturt University for a year. Didn't really pan out the way that I wanted to, but the start of the year after 2018, there was a Facebook post, and you know, social media evolves so quickly. It was even different back then, but it was just a post that my mate sort of commented on and sent through to me saying, "Hey, you know, I know that you love commentary, and it's probably something you want to grab." And it was for the Andrew Johns and Laurie Daly Cup, so that's the junior development system out in the Central West at the time and still now. And at the time, it sort of started as a bridge between those kids that really weren't getting an opportunity to step into Harold Matts and SG Ball, the further development systems for those young boys. And I thought, oh, hey, let's give it a crack. And the first game, let's drive out to Wagga Wagga, 5 hours, and you know, different time. I'm driving on my own petrol, my own time, that sort of stuff, and it's all unpaid. It's all for passion of calling your first game of rugby league. And that first year, I did some Ks going out to Leeton and far down the south coast up to a place here. I'm pretty sure a lot of hours travelled, but again, it all sort of stemmed from just the passion of wanting to call rugby league, something that I've had probably since 5-6 years old. Like I played under sixes out in my local Penrith comp, and I remember my mum actually saying, coming off the field one time, "What were you doing out there?" You know, I was playing, but I was commentating as I was playing as well, as a 6-year-old. And I'm not embarrassed to admit that I used to do it out in the backyard as well. So it's probably something that I didn't really realise until I actually got into my commentary, how far that passion stemmed, you know, how young of an age I was to really understand where it came from.
That's amazing. You commentating your own rugby league games on the field. That's just such a good story. And you mentioned there also you've been quite around the state a fair bit. Leeton, Wagga Wagga. Is passion the true key to progressing further with something you want to take further?
Oh, it is. I mean, in anything you do, really, whether it is your job from 9 to 5 or just something that you want to take up as a hobby, I feel like talent and hard work even can only really progress you so far. That true next level is having passion for something. I've been fortunate enough throughout my life to do an abundance of things outside the sporting world, and I'm a very hard worker when it comes to most things. Talent is another thing that comes into other progressions, but it's that passion that really puts through, like that trumps everything. If you don't have passion for something, you really can't maximize your potential.
For sure. And every commentator, like yourself, has had a media personality maybe that they like to base their call off, or they take snippets.
Well, I think, I mean, watching as much football as I did, I mean, growing up, a lot of my friends, they like to play outside or play video games, and I did that all as a young kid, but I don't think people really understand. When I say I have a passion for rugby league especially, I watched countless hours. Like, as a 7-year-old, my weekend was based about rugby league. It was watching, playing. I'm talking about Friday night, I'm sitting in front of the TV and I'm watching footy. Most Saturday afternoons, kids are going out to birthday parties and stuff like that. No, it's 2:30 Saturday afternoon. I'm sitting in front, Fox Sports, listening to Mark Braybrook and all the rest of them, Warren Smith. And yeah, that's just what I sort of base it around.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Just out of my personal curiosity, what team do you go for in the NRL?
Oh, I'm Penrith tried and true. It's a funny story actually, because when I was choosing my first side, my dad, he was a former West Magpies supporter, and when the clubs merged in 2000, a lot of them obviously stayed, and he was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. He was not a Balmain Tigers supporter at all, so he just decided to go for the local side. And at the time, people will know that Penrith weren't exactly up near the top of the ladder. And I remember it was probably about 2002 where I really started to watch football on a regular basis with him. And Canberra, for some reason, always used to get the best of the Panthers. They were sort of falling out of that dominant period, but anytime they played Penrith, they used to put 40, 50 points up against them. And my old man sat me down and said, "Oh, who do you want to support?" And I said Canberra originally. He said, "Why?" "Well, anytime the Panthers play, Canberra blowing them out of the water." And he sort of looked at me, and I was like, I had a fascination with the colour green as well. I don't know if that translates back to sport. Used to love watching a lot of golf and other sports, cricket. But yeah, I initially went with Canberra and then said, no, I'll go for the Panthers. Make Dad happy. It's the local team as well. And after that, funnily enough, 2003, we go on and win the premiership. And I mean, a 7-year-old doesn't really understand what a premiership win means. And long period after that, obviously we know what's happened over the last half a decade. But yeah, it's funny how the story began.
Yeah, for sure. And there comes a time in life where most people have an idea of what they want to do as a job, whether that be a dream job or their life has led them in a completely different direction and their content with it. Was commentary like this for you? Have you decided that you want to take this to higher levels, or is this more of a hobby?
Yeah, it's probably a conversation I've had with myself now. As of July, I had a job as an account manager for a lighting company, and I sort of gave that away. I was on decent money and, pretty good at the job, but just like I said before, Ollie, the passion wasn't there. I know I was good at it. I probably could go even further with it, but the fire behind it just, it's not the same with what I have now. So it's a juggling act to try and find a way to balance that the business side with what I want to eventually turn into a full-time career, and the battle of not just me, but everyone else. It's a small piece of the pie. There's very, very few people, especially in this country, in this field, that get to call themselves sports commentators, let alone a rugby league sports commentator. And yeah, I feel like that's something that I'm considering now, and different avenues that I'm going to have to go down to get to where I want to go.
For sure, sometimes life is about taking that risk, like you did stepping out of your job. So when you look at where you started in your commentary career compared to calling the Jersey Flegg Grand Final, what moments along the way really shaped the commentator you are now? So not just, the gigs you started picking up to get to that point, but, the lessons you learned from maybe more experienced callers.
Yeah, firstly, it was the travel. It's one thing that doesn't really get taken into consideration. I already spoke earlier about driving far into the Central West and things like that, but I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of commentators that a lot of people won't really know of. I mean, the names that spring to mind, Pete Jolly in my early career, he's done some work around Newcastle over the last decade and probably more, and I spring a lot of my early confidence with working with guys like him. Over the last 12 to 24 months, guys like James Sullivan and Morgan Campbell as well. I mean, I worked with him in my first final that I called, and 7 years later to then step into the booth with him for the Jersey Flegg Cup Grand Final was, he's been there and done it the last couple of years, but to be on that same wavelength with him, I mean, it's sort of a pinch myself, but also good to see that he's progressed into that level as well. So it feels like I'm on the right track, but it's good to see all the other people around me sort of continuing to pursue the same thing that I am. It continues that drive, but it gets spoken about in business like it is a dog eat dog world, but I'm not really that person. Like I love seeing people progress, whether it is a player or a commentator, just people in general. If people aren't working on themselves continuously and they sort of fall by the wayside, you want to come pick them up. But when they are trying to work hard to achieve whatever it is they want to achieve, it makes you smile from ear to ear.
Yep. That's a great mindset, James. So shifting gears a little bit from your journey to what actually happens in the commentary box, I want to talk a bit about calling the unexpected. So they often say the commentator is giving the moment a memory. So, for example, as a fan of cricket, I remember in the 2021 Ashes series, Scott Boland's bowling figures of 6 wickets for 7 runs. But mainly I remember Mark Howard's commentary call of Boland's got 6 at the G, build the man a statue. And then as well, when Buddy Franklin kicked 1,000 goals in the AFL, James Brayshaw on Channel 7 simply said the legend becomes immortal, and then silence. Can you take us inside your head during big moments in your calling career, how you balance the emotion, the accuracy, and the storytelling in real time? Is it just about getting the name out?
It's so funny because, probably the last thing you want to do is go for that moment. It comes so naturally sometimes. I felt like, even looking back through my stuff a couple of years ago, that in my first couple of years, I nailed some moments, and I don't know how I did it. It was just, I think, raw emotion, and just there was carefree attitude of, if I make a mistake, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to call rugby league games, whereas now going back, reviewing footage where I can get better, where I sort of didn't, I suppose, get it right, it is that getting that balance, especially when you get into those bigger games. I mean, I had an interview in the Harvey Norman Women's Premiership, and showing friends is one thing, and some will give you an honest opinion, others will be like, "Oh, you're doing a great job," but back in deep in my mind, I knew, man, I stuffed that up, and like at face value, show 99 people out of 100, and they might not even realise, but it's that. Again, just wanting to get better, and if you're not striving perfection, it's one thing that you can't actually achieve. You can attempt, you can try, you will not ever get perfection. And I think a lot of people try and get that perfect call, but when you're just calling naturally, I think that is technically where that perfect call comes from. I'll go back to my first year and a team that it was in a regional competition, the Monaro Colts from Canberra, in amongst that area, and this team, they had loads of players in the under-20s in through that region. And I remember it will stick out to me forever until I give this up. Tavita Roja Tuinalvai. I don't know why I remember the name, but crossfield kick, throwing it around, and eventually he gets the ball, steps on the inside, puts it down, and I think I said something along the lines of, the hairs on my arms have stood up. I've got goosebumps, and it's in front of like 20 people watching a Goulburn Workers Arena, but every time I go back and I call that and I notice exactly, like, yeah, if I can recall a call that I've made word for word, and I get goosebumps, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now. But I think, wow, that's, I've nailed that. Another one, and I think I sent you the clip, the touch football. Now, I only just started touch football the last 12 months, and going into it, didn't realise how much difference there was between touch football and rugby league, the terminologies, the gameplay, everything like that. The skills are pretty transferable, but in terms of the technicalities, there is so much different from touch than there is to rugby league. And I remember day 3, I think it was in Dubbo, and I got given a 14s semi-final for the girls, and I think a lot of people would shy away from that. It's a younger age group. Naturally, I think a lot of people would probably lean towards getting a boys or a men's grand final, but even with the emergence of the NRLW, I've been really focused on trying to build that women's game, and I love seeing their skills grow. And it was a low-scoring game. It seemed like a bit of a bludger, but back towards the back end of the game, you've got a team from Ballina that's travelled 9.5 hours to be there against the Northern Beaches, were a powerhouse in that division. And the Northern Beaches, they tried this play time and time and time again, and I'm thinking, maybe they'll get it, and it was almost an overcall by me, but they didn't eventually get it, but it was just down to that will, that grit, determination from the defence that really closed down that play. And it could have gone either way. It could have been magic for the Northern Beaches. They could have scored, gone on, won the tournament. But Ballina, they stuck it out, and the whole team, the whole bench, just almost the whole whole area of Ballina that had travelled down, just run onto the field. And it wasn't even the final. It was just to put them in a position to go further in the tournament.
Yeah, wow.
And I remember saying, no, it's gone forward. Ballina, they've beaten the Northern Beaches. Can you believe it? And then they run out onto the field. I'm like, it's not the final yet. You haven't won.
And they have had no answer here for the Ballina side, but the dummy and run, and what a touch! What a touch there from Ballina! It was Stanfield, and now the ball, there's the chance! It's Ross, can you believe it? No! No! It's gone forward, Ross! It was almost in the script that she was going to plant the ball down and win it for the Northern Beaches. But the Ballina Bull Sharks, 11.5-hour bus trip to travel to defeat the Northern Beaches. Can you believe it? Oh, it's not the grand final yet, but you can see how much it means to them, Jace.
They're charging on the field. I can see parents in tears, and who can blame them?
Can you
What a
imagine?
game.
Can you imagine? If this is the response where they won a quarter-final matchup, if they make it there to the grand final.
But you can see how much it meant to them. And I remember working with one of the guys there. I thought it was a good call, but he patted me on the back. He's like, mate, that was some really good stuff. And, I think a lot of people in a low-scoring game, you struggle to find that moment. There's not a lot of tries, maybe not a lot of excitement, but it is that sort of that grit, that determination, and from such a young age group as well. I've got to credit the girls that were playing on that day.
Can I just say, James, as you're telling me that story, and I'm sure the people listening would be feeling the same way, you're really drawing me in with your voice. You've just got like a storytelling way about it. It's brilliant. Like, thank you for sharing. That's a great story.
Right. I might stutter sometimes, but when it comes out cleanly, I believe storytelling, that is definitely one thing that I probably learned from both my parents. Even with something so small, they try and tell a story to me and tell it in a different way that tries to captivate an individual or an audience in particular. And I think that's one thing that, to hear these stories, whoever it may come from, it's so important.
Well, it's sounding like absolute cinema on the other end, just so you know. But you've also called the Lachlan Galvin Easter Monday game and the Jarrod Hayne return game. They're two matches you've been behind the mic, which have layers beyond the scoreboard. How do you prepare for these sorts of games?
Well, it's pretty hard to prepare when you don't know what's coming, and I think that is the best preparation in a way. So Galvin was in the side for the West Tigers the week before, and I didn't know until an hour. Well, I knew it when I got to the ground. So this was at Lidcombe Oval, New South Wales Cup, round 6 or 7, I believe it was, just before the Easter Monday clash, and you could see a few more West Magpies fans that you would normally see at Lidcombe Oval, and I knew I was like, okay, well, he's been in the headlines. Probably a chance he's going to play. But I didn't want to go in thinking, oh, okay, he's definitely playing. You know, I prepared for the team that was named and a few others, and I'm like, well, if he does play, like I've got enough information to go off where I feel like I could just do my job really. And then as he comes out to warm up, massive roar from the crowd, and I just knew it was going to be an interesting day. But in the case of him and also Hayne, you don't want to overcall and overfocus on those players because it is a team sport. You know, you've got 34 other players, you've got the coaches, the staff. You don't want to make it all about it. I'm not trying to grab headlines with the commentary, you know, with focusing on an individual, but then when they make moments, it is quite hard. So personally, I thought that Galvin didn't really play all too well in that game. He still had a try assist, but he played solid.
Yeah.
But obviously, I think those headlines, it was good for him to go down to New South Wales Cup and we don't call it reserve grade, it's New South Wales Cup. You know, we try and have some honour about the heritage of that competition. But yeah, it was good for him to go down for at least that week, and I think it really helped the Tigers as well. They've obviously got a couple of things to talk about throughout this season, but even with the Jarrod Hayne call, or with that game in particular, I knew before heading into kickoff he was named during the week, and I thought I want to focus on the football. You know, there's no need to focus on anything that's happened off field. Had to selfishly bring up the NFL, which at any which way, if I can bring in, especially at the start of the season. So we're deep into the NFL playoffs in the next month or so, and I always find myself going through SG Ball, Harold Matts, Touchscale Cup, all the junior reps in February. I have to try and dial back the NFL talk because I watch so much of it. Pretty much as league stops, the NFL started, and it's another world that, you know, I don't want to get into now, but yeah, in those early games, it is very heavy with that. But with Hayne, yeah, there's no point in focusing on the off field when he's the player. He's a person too. Yeah. People see the sport and think, oh, the player, you know, the person did this, but he's still a tremendous player. And, you know, I thought his defense more so than his attack was so phenomenal. And people forget, like, just him being a part of that Magpie squad. They didn't go all the way to win the Massey Cup Grand Final, but I'm sure every time he rocked up to training their Sydney Shield side, they did. Tremendous Grand Final, 3 field goals in the last 5 minutes against Manly. But yeah, every time he went to training, you got those young guys coming up through the Parramatta system that, regardless of, you know, all the off-field stuff that was surrounding him, they're still looking at, wow, that's Jarrod Hayne, you know. I watched that 2009 season. I want to stay here at Parramatta. And it's people like that you want to continue to bring back to the club. There's probably one thing to talk about is players in general coming back to their local club, their local franchise. I know it happens a lot up here in Newcastle, but I think it's probably something that the NRL should implement for players to go back to their local club, at least for a year, whether it is playing, coaching, being a part of the staff. It's going to help not only the veterans of that club help develop their leadership, but the younger guys coming through. It's going to continue to bring players through the club and really focus on building the club culture.
For sure, James, that was really well said. I'm curious, can you walk us through a time when the story of the game changed in seconds and how you adapted your call as it happened? So, you know, it's easy when you're commentating cricket, you know, you might have 5 dot balls in a row, nothing's happening, you know. Surely the 6th will be a dot, you know, this bowler's on track for a maiden, but then the ball might get smashed for 6, and maybe you try and induce some excitement into that after a pretty quiet over. This is a pretty deep art of commentary. How does one adapt the call in such fast pace? Can you prepare for it?
It's just based on instinct, I suppose, the same as you would a player. How do you react to something that you're not really expecting, or you just try and prepare as best you can? Nothing's really springing to mind, but the one that probably sticks out at the moment, I actually called a game down Group 7 a couple of years ago. The Milton Ulladulla Bulldogs up against, I think they were playing Shell Harbour, and it was just a simple intercept. But the whole game, Shell Harbour, all over them, plenty of points, nothing really happening, and then out of nowhere there was an 80-metre intercept, just went the other way. And I was like, well, I don't think it's going to lean towards the Bulldogs' way, but this could be something to spark it. Or even just the other day, we've got the Southern Melbourne Super League, which is the cricket tournament that I'm calling at the moment, and one of the sides, the Ray White Warriors, 6 for 99, and I'm thinking, it's going to be a pretty barren finish to this. And then you've got Abby Singh, who comes out and smashes 35 off 16 to win the game for his team. They were dead and buried. It was 6 for 99. I'm thinking, okay, if they can just limp home here, they're going to have a few slashes, but he just took full control in the last couple of overs. And the Kerala Tigers, they bowled superbly for the first 15 overs, and I don't think they bowled that poorly in the last 5. It was just a golden moment there for Abby Singh to really turn the game on its head.
Yep. And James, my final question to you today would be, in terms of the bigger picture, when the mic finally goes down at the end of a hopefully long career, what do you hope players, colleagues, or listeners say about the way you've told the story?
Hopefully nothing bad. No, to be honest, I hope people... I'm my own harshest critic, and I hope people just listen and enjoy. And if I do make a mistake, I'd rather people come up to me and let me know that I've made those mistakes, because the worst thing is, within yourself, whether you got it right or wrong, and hearing people say, "Oh, you've done a great job," or "You're progressing well," you sort of, within yourself if you are, but and it goes for everything, I love people to be honest. If I didn't like someone, yeah, sure, it's probably not nice to tell them that I don't like them, but I think just being honest with yourself and people being honest with you, that's the way to go. So there's been times where I've pronounced a name wrong, or gotten a stat wrong, or an established club wrong by 100 years or something, and I've just been tapped on the shoulder. Hey, just this is how you pronounce it. And name pronunciation, just before we wrap up, it's something, especially with the Polynesian community and or the Maldives playing, it's something that is us as Australians. I've got my last name wrong. People have said it as Robertson so many times. I've actually, every time I say this is my last name, I spell it out every single time out of force of habit. But it means so much more for the Polynesians, in terms of the name heritage and how far the lineage travels back. And I feel like not all commentators, there is only a select few. It does feel like there's a bit of laziness towards it. Not to say that they don't care, but I feel like those communities and those people that have those surnames, they care that much about that heritage, where it just takes all it takes is a phone call, or a text message. Hey, I'm doing such and such's game today. I just want to know what the correct pronunciation is. We had a young kid debut for Newcastle, Marcus Diaka, coming from, I think he's Hong Kong, Chinese, and he was playing over in South Africa. He might even have some South African in there. And his kicking coach actually came up to me and said, I thought it was Day Kerr, because I went through and, okay, it's half this, half that. Yeah, I've nailed it. And he came up to me and said, it's Diaka. And I'm like, yeah, no worries. That's all I need, because that means that I know 100% I'm calling the right bloke's name. If I call the moment he scores his first try, unfortunately he didn't, he almost did. Absolutely spectacular grab over the head of Harry Wald and then dropped it in the in goal. But when that moment comes that hopefully he makes his debut, whether it's New South Wales Cup or NRL, and I think he's definitely talented enough if he can put the hard work in, plethora of outside backs at Newcastle that they've got through the junior ranks. But that will be a moment that he wants. And, you hate to go back and listen to anyone sort of get the moment right, get the name wrong, which that's probably another thing, focusing on the name and the player and the club. I'm not a massive fan of football, like European soccer, but one thing that I grabbed, I was reading an article on LinkedIn and they were talking about getting the moment right. And you can get the moment right without having that player associated with it. So the worst thing would be to, call a player it's the wrong play. You never want to do it. I've done it a couple of times, even this year, and I've just had to dial that back and really focus on, you got to capture the moment first, and then if you can add the player to that, even better. But it's about the moment, the try, the crossfield kick, the grab. He's leaped up above the skyscraper, he's put it down onto the ground, and the crowd goes wild sort of thing is the roughest call I've ever had. It's I've only had my first coffee. But, I mean, you can focus all you want. You go, okay, he swapped left wing, right wing, this, that, whatever. You think you know who the player is. 9 times out of 10, you're right. But on the 1% that it might be someone else out there that, maybe you've missed something. Maybe there's been an interchange or the centre of the wing have swapped. You just can't take any chances. So unless you're 100% certain you see the number or you see the face out there, just try and capture the moment first and then let the player come in when it is necessary.
Well, James, can I just say what an extensive insight you've given us to your sports commentary career, the way you've been able to memorise players' names, the rounds, all that sort of thing. It's been amazing, so thanks for joining me on The Mark and the Mic today.
No, thanks for having me, Oliver. It's been a pleasure, honestly.